Hello, everybody. It is great to be here again today. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the host of LaToken VCTV. Today, we're going to be talking about which industries will be disrupted by blockchain. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 startups and 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. And also the CEO was a CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, premier AI and quantum venture studio. So with that, I'd like to introduce Michael. And Michael, tell us a little bit about Liberty Real Estate Fund and the kind of things that you're doing.
Hi, I'm Michael Flight. I'm with Liberty Real Estate Fund, and also we host the Blockchain Real Estate Summit event. So been in real estate since 1986, done a lot of work with institutional investors and commercial investors in large projects. And in about 2017, started seeing a lot of people doing a lot of things on in crypto. And I had known about Bitcoin and stupidly didn't invest in it in 2014. But I saw some people doing things with real estate, and I'm like, why can't we create a real estate stablecoin? So we've gone down the adventure of realizing that you can't issue a security in the United States unless it's legally compliant. So we have Liberty Real Estate Fund, and we're also doing advising to explain to people how to tokenize private equity funds. And the latest venture, as I said, was we hosted the Blockchain Real Estate Summit in Austin, Texas, and it will be happening again in Austin, Texas in September 23rd and 24th. And we've also got one going in June in Brazil.
Oh, fantastic. Fabio, a little bit about yourself.
I'm an economist by training. I have a PhD in economics from the University of Chicago. I started my career at the International Monetary Fund. Then I moved to the European Central Bank for the launch of the euro. And then I took the plunge and joined the private sector, first in London, Goldman Sachs Research Department, Global Research Department. And then I moved to the Arabian Peninsula to work for sovereign institutions in Qatar, in Dubai, and then in the Sultanate of Oman as chief strategist of the Oman Investment Fund, which is a sovereign wealth fund. Now I'm a partner in a boutique investment bank in New York, based in New York, with offices in Dubai and Hong Kong, called the Golden Eagle Capital Advisors. And essentially I assist innovative company in raising funds, either on the over-the-counter market in New York or through direct contacts with funds, institutions, family offices, high net worth individuals.
That's great. That's great, Fabio. Thank you. Nicole, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
The hat matches the glasses today.
Yeah, I want to comment as well.
Well, I do list on my LinkedIn profile that I am a hat wearer, and I am in a couple of different ways, literally and figuratively. I have a marketing strategy firm, and we also do business development and global expansion for companies, and that's called Outfront Solutions. And I work with a lot of funds and early stage companies as well in their growth and valuation, help them hit their objectives. But the other hat that I wear is in venture capital. I am a fund advisor to How Women Invest, which is a venture capital fund investing in female founders and has predominantly female LPs. So we're really into disrupting the whole ecosystem, if you will. And then also I am a fund advisor and venture partner at Seed Milestone Fund. And so we're investing in companies in tranches. And I've built a venture capital fund on the blockchain. So maybe we'll speak about that today a little bit.
No, that sounds great. So I got a question for you. How did you get into hats? I'm just really curious. I don't know about you guys, but it's like really interesting for me.
Well, people don't wear hats enough anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when my grandfather passed away. My grandfather owned a hat shop, and so
you did.
I actually would wear his hats as a kid. So I kind of like the hats too. I felt like Dick Tracy or something in there.
Oh yeah.
What made you decide to get into hats?
I don't know. I actually really love fashion. So for me, it's another way to accessorize and kind of change things up. I also don't mind being a little bit visible, and it kind of sets a little bit of a, people kind of remember my hats. And I have I think 26 now. I've just decided to, instead of putting them away in the closet or in hat boxes, there's an entire wall that covers that has hats. So maybe I'll put that as a backdrop someday.
Oh, wow. I want to see that. That sounds great. All right. And Michael, I got a question for you too. Do you think the U.S. has fallen behind? Because I've heard this, situation with, not being up to speed in terms of blockchain and crypto and all that. I mean, and missing out. What do you think? I mean, it's like, it sounds like you were doing the fun, but what do you think? Are we falling behind?
I want to say that there's way more progressive regulators out there in different parts of the world. And the U.S. government, especially in terms of securities issuance and especially in terms of things, and just even, I'm also involved with a crypto venture capital fund out of Romania. And, there's some really great projects out there that they won't touch coming to the United States to raise money. So I think in this abundance of caution is also just hampering ordinary individuals and, young people that want to invest in interesting crypto projects, and they can't get access to it. So I think it's, affecting the wealth of, people in the United States too.
No, I think so too. And I'm really concerned about it, to be honest with you. I think in a lot of different ways, including, we don't have our heroes as scientists like we did when I grew up, right? The scientists were the heroes. You don't hear much about that anymore. You don't hear about the Valley, the companies, from my own perspective, doing the kind of things. And you see tax regimes that are out there that aren't favorable and not really, helping people go forward. It's incredible, actually.
And outright hostile to entrepreneurs. I mean, I haven't been watching TV for the last 20 years, and I stopped watching it because all the villains were business people. And I'm like, well, there's villains in every part of life. And we could point to a lot of politicians that are villains. We could point to a lot of other people that are villains, but it just seemed that the only villain was a business person. So I'm like, I really don't need to see this, because I, believe that some of the most creative and just exceptional people who are not only artists, but, are also entrepreneurs. So I'll stop with that. And
I mean, I agree with you too. And that goes back to, what industries will be disrupted because of blockchain. If you're not on the leading edge of it and you're looked as a villain, nothing good's going to happen, right? So it's interesting. No, it's fantastic. Fabio, from your perspective, so we look at this, are you in Italy right now? Where are you today?
I am in Italy, yes. And if can be of any consolation for Mike, here the public TV has as heroes, policemen, judges, rangers, all public employees. The private sector TV has heroes, scientists, artists, entrepreneur. So there is also this kind of ideological divide in fiction, in TV.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And So what do you think? We look at this blockchain, right? Of course, it's going to have a big impact. Then on the other side of it, with quantum computers, between this year and 2027, the blockchain can be broken with nefarious characters in quantum. What's going on? I mean, one is which industries are going to be disrupted. The second thing is, are they going to be safe?
Well, let me start with the second question. I would say that once you have a quantum computing advance that might be able to crack a blockchain, probably you have also a blockchain which will be robust to quantum computing disruption. So it's always a race between innovators, bad guys, guards, and criminals. So I wouldn't worry much. I'm sure that a viable solution will be found. What's more interesting is what industries will be disrupted. And in general, will be disrupted the industries where you need some sort of validation or that can benefit from a validation that doesn't depend on the seal of an authority. Okay, so for example, it would have been interesting to have a land registry based on blockchains. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen or hasn't happened yet, but it would look like a natural extension, natural development in the blockchain. Another area could be in property, intellectual property, copyright, patent, anything that needs a timestamp to prove that the original idea belongs to somebody. Even there, it doesn't seem that the progress is speedy.
But why? I mean, Fabio, that's the other thing. Why, right? Because think about it. Real estate. Michael's in real estate. It's a no-brainer if you want to do cross-border transactions to use blockchain, right? And crypto, and I mean, this is like really simple stuff. And if you're going down through and you need smart contracts, I can't think of a better place to do it. But it's like weird that it's not moving forward like it should.
Yeah, and I can, just chime in because I've, worked with some startups that wanted to disrupt, the loan process and wanted to disrupt that. And, they brought me in early and I was always, the Debbie Downer because I'm like, well, the technology allows you to do this, but you have to go get licensed in every state if you're going to start, working with, commercial finance and you're going to start working with mortgages. And I'm like, and actually mortgages, they're regulated in the United States in most countries by, the country and then by the individual, so it's tough to do that type of disruption. And the same thing, I believe we're going to see a lot more, and I think it's going to really create a lot more wealth in developing countries. Fabio, mentioned, real estate title. So just basically like when you go to, Eastern Europe or you go to Africa or you go to South America, you can get Wi-Fi everywhere and they've just skipped the landlines. I think that they're going to skip, the title system that we have. And they're eventually, once they get the titles on, chain, those people are going to be able to unlock that equity. Those people are going to be able to trade that equity. Those people are going to actually be able to point to that and say, I have this equity here and I've got collateral. So now I can, create a business and use that as a loan.
I wonder if it's going to get to a point, and maybe Nicole, we could talk about it, but I mean, that sounds like a good place to tokenize, right? Your equity that you would have in a particular property, right? Or, I mean, it's fascinating. What do you think, Nicole, in terms of industries that are going to be disrupted by the blockchain?
Well, I mean, I liken myself to a starfish in the sense that first time I really tried to build something on the blockchain was a very ambitious venture capital fund, Andra Capital. And, we had to invest millions of dollars to get everything set up and, and have the regulations there. And the whole purpose of it was to democratize investing in venture capital, right? That, we were investing in late stage venture capital, which typically is reserved for people who can write the $100 million checks or have relationships with the Sequoias or Andreessen Horowitz of the world. So we felt really good about that. And we invested in tons of technology and everything. And we were able to get investors from 55 different countries and the whole thing. And then the bad actors would come on and there'd be publicity around that. And so, I'm a brand builder. I know what it is to deal with a crisis and build a brand. And we very successfully built a brand around Andra, but I mean, there were just so many aspects of it that were formidable doing this out of the United States. And so it just, I hope that, this continues. But the other industry that I'm deeply engaged in is gaming. And I just last week or week and a half ago launched Griffin Gaming Partners Fund 2, and they oversubscribed, raised 750 million. So now they have $1 billion under management to invest in game companies. And, a lot of people aren't realizing that games are bigger than movies, books, and music combined. So it's just a burgeoning market. And Griffin Gaming Partners has invested over half of their fund 2 in Web3 blockchain gaming. And they're, standing side by side with Forte and Overwolf and, Jam City and all these different folks, and are really, really bullish on the fact that people can own these different properties, their skins, their, I can get a, tractor as part of a game and actually own it, and that's interesting. It's not an asset that just kind of goes away. So it's explosive. And running around, the Game Developer Conference was last week in San Francisco, and I was running around. I would say that 90% of the people I spoke to were raising money for, having their games and their content on the blockchain. So I think that's a really natural place. And in the games industry, I think people are more inclined to, embrace, getting on.
And I just, as a follow on, Nicole, I met last year probably 4 or 5 younger people that were doing a lot of online gaming, but they were crypto gaming. So they had all these NFTs, and like 3 of them had more than $1 million worth of NFTs. Now, the key issue is if they actually sold any of those, the value of those might go down because they had so much. So there was an illiquid market there, but
Right.
It's just impressive, the amount.
There's that.
Yeah.
The economies of it are yet to be determined, and the content's not really there yet. That's the other thing that, people are saying, whoa, but what I love about the blockchain is that everybody's game to just jump on this wild horse, just see if they can hang on, and where is it going to take us, and and all those things. And I love that about it. I'm old enough to have carried a lot of companies and brands, and through the .com boom, and then mobile, and even earlier than that, to be honest, in the software, early days of software and SaaS models. But I just it's it's there for the taking. And I think the content, I don't even think I've seen a lot of really amazing content that's going to come. So I think with that, the whole ecosystem is building up, like, the place to transact and making sure that you have, these assets can be liquid, and, but creating the economies around them. It's just going to be so interesting. I mean, talk about nascent. Whoa, we're not even on the map yet.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? I mean, what's real and what's not? So we're dealing with the metaverse a lot. So we look at the metaverse as this new area, but what's real and what's not? And are we getting into a Dutch tulip phenomenon? I've heard about that in the last week a little bit more. What do you think, Michael?
I think that, in me, I work in real estate, so I have a real bias towards real estate, and I have a real bias against, the metaverse and some of the other things. And also because of my age, I have a bias against, doing a lot of online things because, I started my life mostly, my mom yelling at us to go outside, and we, be outside the entire day. So, I'm just telling you that it's kind of the old guy syndrome. But quite honestly, the reason why I wanted to get into real estate on the blockchain is because I'm like, why wouldn't you tie, a crypto asset to, something stable, something that, generates cash flow, something that, has 1,000-year proven track record, something that, has generated wealth for generations. So why wouldn't you take this new technology, which is the technology of transferring value, of transferring money, of transferring assets, and why wouldn't you combine that with something that's $280 trillion that's just illiquid? And the other thing is that what I've seen over the past few years is everybody talks about how it's going to bring liquidity to real estate. I think it's going to create something much more than liquidity, which is access to investing in real estate and access to holding your wealth in real estate. And, as a really good example, we have because of the laws in the United States, we had to do a U.S. fund and a non-U.S. fund. And the non-U.S. fund, you could tell when there's currency issues in certain countries because just the interest from those countries, especially when, the lira gets devalued by 60%. It's like there's just people like, knocking on the doors because it's like, how do I get into something stable? How do I get into something that's going to hold the value and also, create real cash flow from, real economic activity?
Yeah, it's interesting. We worried about things being, and that's just my opinion, right? Worry about things having value and tied to stable, but the dollar's not tied to gold. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's like kind of weird, It's like, I remember when there were gold certificates. I used to collect them when I was a kid, gold and silver certificates. And, but it's interesting how the world.
In doing research, Ben Franklin originally had a scheme to tie the value of the dollar to land, and it would have been, a land coin.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you think, Fabio? What's your opinion?
Even during the French Revolution, the revolutionary government issued bonds, which then became liquid assets, backed by the land confiscated to the church. So the idea has been there for
the original wealth redistribution.
Yeah. No, the interesting part, I would say, is linked to smart contracts. And, there has been always an issue, a practical issue in real life, on how to ensure that certain transactions get executed conditional on the verification of certain elements, facts, or checks. For example, when you buy a tank full of oil, the bank of the buyer issues a letter of credit to the bank of the seller. Then the oil tanker is filled with crude. An inspector checks the quality and the specs of that crude, makes sure that it's in line with the contractual obligation. The tank travels to the destination. There, another inspector checks that the crude is the same quality, quantity, and specs that the at origin. So in each of these passages, there are there are elements of a smart contract. So when each of these validations are done, something can be triggered, a clause of the smart contract can be triggered, so that ultimately the bank sends the money from the buyer to the seller. So and this is just an example of trade finance. There are several other real life examples. For example, the mortgage. If you don't pay the mortgage for more than I don't know X months, the property gets immediately transferred to the bank or whoever has issued the mortgage. So you don't need any repossession, any cumbersome procedure. I think that area should be pursued more aggressively than has been done so far.
Yeah, I think Fabio brings up an excellent point about smart contracts, especially your example of the oil thing. I was a early investor in a company called Data Gumbo, which takes it all the way from oil production to delivery, and they pay out at each stage of it, and really they're doing everything on the blockchain. But I agree with you 100%, especially you can mechanize a lot of contracts that there's complex contracts, which I think a lot of blockchain people don't understand how complex the contracts are. And I think if the smart contracts go wrong, I was at a conference last week and they were talking about how it's going to get rid of attorneys. I'm like, no, when these things go wrong, there's going to be way more attorneys involved fighting over who was wrong in a smart contract. But I think, for like your example with mortgage or somebody that has to pay a regular rent and things don't change, all that is going to be really great done on the blockchain, because you're going to be able to audit, whether those people actually paid when you're selling the property. A lot of times it's famous where people will just, make up people on the rent roll. Whereas, if you've got an audit trail that, they say somebody was in a particular unit for 3 years, you can see that they were there and that they paid rent and, when they paid.
But now, for example, there is a great opportunity because, as you might know, the US will supply Europe 15 billion cubic meters of gas. Now, that gas needs to be extracted, put into a pipeline, a gas pipeline. Then it needs to be liquefied. Then it needs to be pumped up a special vessel which transport the liquefied gas to the destination. At destination, there is a regasifier. From the regasifier, you put the gas into the pipeline and then distribute it. Each of these steps require a validation. Each of these steps involves a different set of contractual partners. because the guy who sells has to hire the ship, maybe has to pay for the liquefying facility. Maybe the buyer needs to pay for the regasification. So there are a number of possible complications. And by the way, all this happens across at least 3-4 jurisdictions.
Right.
So if something goes wrong, it's a nightmare.
See, and that's why Gary says, why not just take that gas and mine Bitcoin and just make everything so simple?
Exactly. No, but that's what I'm saying. So
That's exactly right.
an area where there is a huge opportunity,
Right.
and somebody might need to take it.
Right. No, it's a huge opportunity on every one of those things. Supply chain. You hit it on the head when you started off and said blockchain can be used everywhere you need validation.
Now you're right. Listen, we're coming up to the top of the hour. So, Michael, closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
I think that blockchain is the new rails of the financial system. I think that, at some point, all transactions are going to be done on a blockchain. And there's all kinds of use cases that nobody's thought of that, somebody's going to come, up and say, we could do this. And it's going to be like the internet. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could do that. And it's going to reduce a lot of things, cost to zero or, very close to zero. If somebody wants to get a hold of me, they can go to our website, which is libertyfund.io. That's libertyfund.io. They're looking for a special report on how you can use blockchain in real estate. Then there's a report button over there. Or if they're looking for more resources on blockchain and real estate, they can go to the blockchainrealestatesummit.com.
That's great. Thanks, Michael. Fabio?
Okay, I want to give you another glimpse on the future through smart manufacturing. The first stage of internet has been all about exchange of information. Blockchain and crypto is the new step, exchange of value, transfer of value. The next step will be 3D printing, therefore the transfer of physical object. I can design something here in Italy, get it produced in India, and maybe shipped to wherever, Thailand, or get it done directly in Thailand. Now, if I have a bunch of these 3D printers all around the world, I can have a cryptocurrency that is worth 1 hour of usage of this 3D printing. That would be analogous to tying a currency to gold. Instead of having gold, you have 1 hour of production capability. This opens up a whole world of opportunities. At that point, currencies will not be linked to the economy of a country. You won't have the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, the Turkish lira. You will have the crypto of the metal industry, the crypto of the plastic industry, the crypto of the transport industry, the crypto of maybe wheat production or wheat processing. So that's my glimpse over the future. And you can find me on LinkedIn under my name or on Facebook. But if you Google my last name, you'll find anything you need to know about me.
That's great. Thanks, Fabio.
And Fabio just blew my mind. So he's going to come out with the Fabio coin for fabricating things.
Yeah, no, that's
I have
fantastic.
already one, by the way.
Do you?
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yes.
So in closing thoughts, there's incredible opportunities out there. We need to make this world a better place. Need to democratize opportunity and give everybody a fair shake. The beautiful thing about blockchain, the beautiful thing about crypto is people that had not had access to the markets now have access in entirely different ways. You can reach me, Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios. You can reach me at gary@gsdvs.com. I appreciate each and every one of you coming on board today. Michael, thanks for joining. Fabio, thanks for joining. And to the entire LaToken VCTV team, Hasmic, etc., thank you for allowing me to host one more time. Stay tuned, stay safe, and see you soon. My name's Gary Fowler. Thank you very much. See you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.